simple take on how scientists have long explained the start of our universe. A new discovery, though, is causing a bit of an uproar within the scientific community, turning some of that established thinking on its head. Astronomers using the James Webb Telescope have discovered massive, ancient galaxies, which are raising questions about how the universe was formed. Erica Nelson is an astrophysicist with the University of Colorado at Boulder. She's part of the team that discovered these galaxies. Erica, good morning.
Good morning.
You described this discovery as bananas, which is the scientific term, I'm sure, for what's going on. What was bananas about the discovery?
The thing that was bananas about the discovery is that we saw these objects that should not exist according to our current understanding of the beginning of the universe.
And why should they not have existed?
These things are really, really massive. These galaxies have the same number of stars as our Milky Way does, except it's immediately after the Big Bang. And I think a reasonable analogy for this is, when you wake up in the morning, the only thing that you can think about is, I need coffee. Like, you're not putting together complex thoughts. You're not writing Margaret Atwood style books before you hit your morning commute. And so this is the same thing. You expect there to be these little basic galaxies thinking they need coffee, but not Margaret Atwood style books before 8 a.m.
Part of the way that you're able to figure this out, and I want to talk more about what this means, but the way that you were able to see these things that shouldn't have existed is through the James Webb Telescope. And in some ways, it's a time machine. It allows you to look back in time billions of years. How is it able to do that?
Yeah, and this concept is very hard to understand, but I also think it's one of the most mind-blowing concepts that I've ever heard. It's why I'm in astrophysics, actually. But so basically, light travels really fast, but it doesn't travel at an infinite speed. So that means it takes time for the light to get from one place to another place. So for instance, the sun is far away, and the light from the sun actually takes 8 minutes to get from the sun to us. And so if something were to happen to the sun, we wouldn't know about it for 8 minutes, which is kind of crazy. But the sun is very close by cosmic standards. The galaxies that we're looking at here are really, really, really far away. So it takes the light 13.5 billion years to travel from them to us. And so when we see that light, we're actually seeing it as it was 13.5 billion years ago when that light started traveling to us.
And so what does seeing that light change or challenge in the thinking of the origins of the universe?
Yeah, so our big picture for the origins of the universe is that the universe started in a Big Bang 14 billion years ago, when all of light and matter and energy and time and space were all created in an instant. And then from there, it expanded and grew, and the components that we know of the universe started to form, and the little things started forming first, like atoms, and then gradually stars started forming, and then little galaxies, and then big galaxies. And so our theory for the origin of everything makes predictions for when the first big objects could exist. And we're finding these big objects way before we thought that there should be objects that are this big. And so what that means is that our theory, if these galaxies are confirmed, then we have something in the universe that our theory doesn't predict. And our theory is kind of what underlies everything we think we know about our origins and our fate.
And it's because of James Webb, of this telescope, that we're able to do this, that we did not have the technology to be able to raise those questions or interrogate those ideas in the same way before.
Exactly. This is why James Webb was constructed, is so that we could understand our origins origins in a new way. We literally could not see this light before.
What is it like for you to be at the center of this, of having access to this technology, but then also to be yourself questioned when it comes to what you thought the narrative was, what you thought the origins were?
It's definitely the most amazing experience of my scientific career. I think discovering the first of these really massive, really early galaxies was definitely the most exciting.
Well, the gas went up today, 162.
You know, the reason that we're all scientists
145
is
yesterday.
to discover new things about the universe, and so to actually be able to do that is just
Glad I gassed up.
thing. It's why I get up in the morning.
You wrote a paper, I was reading about this, you wrote a paper about the whole...
Never know what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So
Sure did.
what's the line between that and what you're doing now?
I mean, I was like, I wrote this paper and I was hooked. I just could not. I was like, there's nothing cooler in the world to do than study the universe and study the origins of our universe on the biggest possible scales. And for me, the thing that really got me was that concept we talked about earlier of traveling through time with telescopes. I thought that was so incredible that I decided at that moment that this is what I had to do with my life.
This telescope has only been in orbit for, what, just over a year now, right?
Yeah, and it's only been taking data for just over 6 months.
So how, I mean, in some ways this is proof of concept, that people put this thing up thinking that it would be able to tell us things that we would have never thought we would learn before. What to you could we learn in the coming months and years that could affect how we think about the universe? I mean, is it truly limitless in terms of what we might be learning about?
Yeah, I mean, one of the amazing things about astrophysics as a science is that it's dependent both on the creativity of its researchers, which is, you know, why all these creative young people should get into science, but it's also driven by advances in technology. And so, you know, this whole new world is opened up to us with this new telescope and these new eyes on the universe. And, you know, I think this telescope will uncover all sorts of, you know, known unknowns, like things that we think should exist, but we haven't seen yet. But I think the most exciting thing is the unknown unknowns, the things that we could never have dreamed of. And it's really, I mean, this telescope has so much potential to transform our understanding of everything we thought we knew about the universe.
That must be, I mean, intoxicating may not even be a strong enough word to describe what it's like to be in the middle of that.
Exactly. Yeah. It really is.
Still 145 over here.
Although you
That's
have
crazy.
As a scientist, you know, you have to be
Maybe
you
they'll
have to
be changing it
grounded
later on.
in truth, which is why we always say we need to confirm these objects.
But occasionally you'll say that a discovery is actually bananas, which speaks to the excitement that you have around the work that you do. Erica,
Indeed. Yes, indeed. It is.
it's great to talk to you about this work and to talk to you about what we don't know and what we still might learn. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Erica Nelson is a member of the James Webb Telescope team that discovered all 6 of the new previously undiscovered galaxies. She's actually going to be in Canada, in Toronto, next month at the University of Toronto to talk about these discoveries. That's the current for this Wednesday. Q is up next on CBC Radio 1. It is, as you know, International Women's Day. And on this day, we're going to leave you with some music by a Canadian icon, founded Lilith Fair, music festival that made history for featuring only female solo artists and female-led bands. This is from a live recording at Lilith Fair. It's Sarah McLachlan, Building a Mystery. I'm Matt Galloway. Thanks for listening to The Current. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Well, everybody, have a great day. Be safe, be careful. Watch out for any more train derailments. something suspicious is going on with that. It's a little weird for sure. People have to deal with that, their health and all that stuff. Ohio. I still don't really have any answers what's happening with that. Pretty crazy. Be very careful, everyone. Things aren't always what they seem. Just make sure that you're ready yourself for whatever happens. Another day, another dollar. I think it's supposed to stay like this pretty much today. They called for some flurries, but I don't know.
This is CBC Radio 1, 99.9 FM in Sudbury. TV's favorite crime-fighting duo is back on the case, and they're serving justice.
Police, don't move on my soul!
Drop the gun now! Serving looks,
I am charming. Look at my cords.
serving solidarity.
Oh, man. You know what? And women. Really, right?
Yeah.
People, really. People.
Pretty hard cases, Wednesdays at 9 on CBC, or stream free on CBC Gem. The CBC News is next, followed by Q.
Sarah Silverman has gone from making her dad laugh to becoming one of the most successful stand-up comedians in the world. But Sarah's earliest work was edgy and shocking and even offensive. She'll tell you why more comedians need to accept criticism.
From CBC News, it's the world this hour. I'm Joe Cummings. The Bank of Canada makes its March interest rate setting this hour, and we're expecting to see the central bank hold the line on rate increases. It would be the first pause in the bank's long-running fight against inflation. It's
about
been underway
time.
now for a year, and it has seen the bank push up its overnight rate to 4.5%. Most analysts say it's possible the campaign has worked, and that the worst of the inflation crisis may be behind us. Homeless advocates across the country are watching with great interest as work is underway to determine the size of the homeless community in BC's Lower Mainland. It's an extensive undertaking that is expected to offer valuable insights applicable to all Canadian cities. Renee Filipponi reports.
More than 1,000 volunteers are on the streets in 11 communities across Greater Vancouver, not only counting the number of people who are homeless, but also conducting interviews to get a better sense of who they are.
So these counts are used in the creation of policy in theory. They're always an undercount.
AJ Withers is with Simon Fraser University and says there are many reasons the numbers are up.
There's been a cost of living crisis in Vancouver and across the country. People were displaced because they lost their jobs through COVID. And then also there's just this ongoing force displacing people through the city because of gentrification.
In an effort to include people living in cars, boats, or couch surfing, there is also an option to call 211, a hotline where they can be included in the count. The final tally will be made public later in the year. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Vancouver.
Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the European Union, is in Ottawa and last night addressed the House of Commons on the war in Ukraine. And she praised Canada's involvement in the Ukrainian war effort, comparing it to the role Canada played in freeing her native Germany and all Europe from the Nazis.
Thus, we owe our democracy also to you, the people of Canada. And we will be forever grateful for the sacrifice your parents and grandparents made, and for the invaluable gift of freedom.
Speaking ahead of International Women's Day, von der Leyen also accused Russia of using rape and sexual violence as part of its military strategy in Ukraine. She is still in Ottawa and is meeting this hour with Governor General Mary Simon. Still with International Women's Day, the UN says that since the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan in 2021, the country has become the world's most repressive nation for women and girls. The UN mission to Kabul has released a report that says the Taliban has an almost singular focus on keeping women and girls trapped in their homes. And it is calling it a methodical, deliberate, and systemic effort to push Afghan women out of the public sphere. In the wake of last year's horrific occupation by Russian troops of the Ukrainian city of Bucha, the city now is being rebuilt. And as we hear from Margaret Evans, the goal is to restore not just the buildings, but also the city's identity.
The remaking of Bucha underway. Thick cement being poured into foundations designed to reshape not just the city, but all that its name has come to signify. They've begun with Vokzalna Street. The burnt-out husks of Russian tanks have all been removed, and 82 family homes destroyed in the fighting are now being rebuilt. Bucha's deputy mayor, Dmytro Chechuk, says the city is anxious to erase all traces of the war.
We didn't want to make Bucha the city of grief.
Since the Russians occupying Bucha were pushed out, war crimes investigators say they've found or dug up the bodies of 458 civilians. City planners see efforts to encourage people back to their homes as part of the same battle being fought in the south and east of Ukraine. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Bucha.
And that is the CBC News to this hour.
The weather, sunshine today, but from Northbay to the Quebec border and for Little Abitibi, Kisagami Lake and Moosonee, cloudy with in most cases the chance of flurries, but for Moosonee a few flurries developing around noon. Highs -9 to +2 degrees. Tonight, cloudy or mainly cloudy with the chance of flurries from Sudbury to the Quebec border and from Timmins to Fort Albany, with the exception of Kapuskasing, Hearst, Fraserndale and Pledger Lake. Moosonee will have a few flurries which should end overnight. Elsewhere, clear to partly cloudy tonight. Lows -21 to -9 degrees.
Well, there you have it, everyone. It's the news for today. Have a great day and be safe. I'll see you guys later.